Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Shuffle Bus. I am Jesse Bergman. I'm your host, and I'm glad you're all back with us again. I'm here with my Week 4 AIL matchup played right around the holidays of 2020, getting it out here to you in the new year. Happy New Year to everybody. We just wanted to go and break down how the experience was going for AIL and showcase the matches. Back with my Herald deck. This is a older version of the deck. There will be an updated version coming out soon. Look for it on our YouTube channel. And, as always, if you enjoy this content, hope you'll like it. Give us a thumbs up. Lets us know we're doing good. You're always welcome to comment. We love to have chats in our comments. And, yeah, I mean, if you really enjoy our content, it'd be super awesome if you hit the subscribe button. That's just a huge way of saying thank you to us. We appreciate you so much for that. So, anyways, this particular matchup, I'm playing Chaos Monkey. This is a makeup match, so if you remember right from past vids, my second week matchup didn't get scheduled with my opponent because he had some technical difficulties. Basically, his computer died. Sucks. I feel bad for him. I was really hoping we'd get a play in division. So this is a cross-divisional opponent. Super awesome of Chaos to agree to meet with me and play. And yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. So I'm gonna get the video started. We'll go through. I'll sort of comment through the matchup, and then we'll wrap everything up. So I'm getting started here. I've got my deck laid out. Chaos is displaying his deck. He puts down a Namine. Somebody can tell me how to pronounce some of these Phoenixborns. I'm terrible at it, by the way. Just an FYI. But he's showing Divine, Sympathy, Charm, and Nature. This is pre-first five Hydra restriction.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, one of the things that concerns me about a first five Hydra restriction is whether or not my opponent is going to play a first round Hydra. And so I don't buy all the way into it because it's not the perfect Hydra Phoenixborn. If this was an Odette or Aerodel, I would buy in completely into my Hydra plan. But I still am going to choose a double removal plan. If I remember right, I take the bear, the Frostback Bear. I take, because of the Sympathy die, there's a good chance there's Guilt Link, but I take the River Skald, and I take the Flash Archer, if I remember right. And since I'm looking at potentially a Guilt Link deck, I play the Salamander Monk. That way, my large bear threat can continue to survive. So, my last card is going to be the Flash Archer. And, yeah. So, again, we pull those all in. So we're not fully on. And what I mean by that is we're not fully on the Hydra plan because I don't think with a single nature die he's not on the ability to be able to play Hydra and play close combat.
Have you been playing this game on?
And do all of those things that he would need to do. So I'm more concerned about a potential Neil strategy, and I'm more concerned with a potential just Guilt Link type strategy with choke. All right, so Chaos elects to go second, giving me the opportunity to go first.
Oh yeah, actually.
Alrighty, sir. Good luck to you.
Yeah, you too.
We're kind of just getting off the ground here. I play a Salamander Monk down. I still think probably with this opening hand, the best play is to play Frostbite first. I show less to my opponent that way. But it's very common for me to play Ready Spell, meditate twice, and pass over to my opponent, which is what we do here. I like having double nature up. It's just gives me a lot of flexibility. Number one, I have to have one of those nature power dice for the Frostback Bear, but I have to have. I like having the second one for, Nature Ping with Mark from Herald. So he drops a 3-eyed owl. Now I know he's not on Hydra. least very unlikely to be on Hydra. So I'm pretty certain at this point he's going to be trying to just get rid of my hand and filter my deck down. So it's going to slow my meditation down in this game a little bit. But he meditates too. He shows me a kneel. Um, Kneel in the bin like this is less of a concern for me. I obviously he could open memories with this dice combination to pull Neils out with consistency. So having one in the bin, unless he's going to start memorializing them, is not. I'm like kind of happy about the fact that I might be missing a Neil here. So again, opponent's not showing me much, but I go ahead and put the bear out now
Mm-hmm.
because they know he's on the Neil plan. I want to try to pressure Neil, right? Like I want to try to I'm
Yeah,
terrible about it. It's like out of the way.
so
Create a board state where my opponent goes.
So it kind of blends in with the back of your cards a little bit.
My opponent has to go. Okay, well I'm gonna kneel you now, and so I want to try to make that as minimal as possible with as much effectiveness as possible. I'm able to do that through pressuring with bear, pressuring with scald, etc. Okay, so he plays the owl, um, which is expected. When you play, you kind of have to be on third main action owl ability. I'm okay with losing Flash Archer if he owls me, but I'm also just capable of just like killing the owl here. So like, and this is where if I had played the Frostbite early, I would have been able to respond to that. But I'm going to go ahead and play the Scald instead and use the Scald ability here. I don't want to use the Flash Archer for it because I could potentially still recur a Scald, but and I hit a Scald. Again, this is just where if I played Frostbite, I could have gone ahead and marked the owl, shot the owl with Frostbite, and still left my nature dice up. Or I could have shot the with the bite and the nature die and called it good there. Lots of different options that would have still allowed me to retain the Scald if my opponent played a bigger threat.
Summon Weeping Spirit.
Okay, so I know he's going to start trying to fill my board with Weeping Spirits. That's just going to try to clog my board, put me into a position where I can't play my threats. So I start doing some math. Basically, the math I figure out in this is like I'm probably going to only be able to get 3 to 4 hard units out into play. So those need to be meaningful units. So it's going to turn off things like my Anchornaut. It's going to turn off things like Salamander Monk. And I'm still concerned that there could be a Guilt Link because Guilt Link would be really powerful, but Guilt Link is also less powerful if he's putting Weeping Spirits on my board, so I'm starting to think like that's probably not a play that this deck is going to have. Um, so I'm not sure. I mean, obviously with Neil, one of the things that I have to be planning for is potentially a
Go ahead and put the Weeping Spirit.
a circumstance where he's going to play Mirror Spirit because if he kneels me with a bunch of spirits on the board, then I'm in trouble, right? Like he's got a big Mirror Spirit. I've got a board that can't block. Lots of reasons that could be detrimental to my life pool and put me in a pretty dangerous position. The good news is that even if I get kneeled and my opponent does something like that, I have so many ways to get rid of a 2 health unit that I think I can survive. We'll see. It's going to depend on how it works out. First time fighting Weeping Spirit, so
Yeah, it is definitely a weird one. As a side action, I'll use uh, just normal Namine.
Okay.
I won't do an exhaustion to yours.
Okay.
I'm just gonna draw
Okay.
a card.
So he's just going to draw a card off, Namine ability, exhaust her out. Probably if he's on a plan where he thinks he's going to play a big threat, the Herald is scary. If he's not on a plan to do that, side action, meditate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so end of the day, that's probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
I could have still like pulled back the archer, but I'm starting to think less and less that he's got a big threat to threaten the board with, especially since last turn he didn't do that.
Okay, and
And
then
you used her ability, so she's exhausted,
oh yeah, you're right.
right? Okay, so we're just correct on the board state.
Um, let's see. So I will meditate away that guy. I will do.
And threatening Golden Veil, I mean that's a concern I have with removal against Charm. Is just fighting through
Yeah,
3 Golden Veils could be a problem. Opponent's still got 4 cards in hand. I'm out of cards in hand right now. Um,
I will play.
that's a pretty big deal. Okay, so he drops an Essence Druid. That's going to let him get back the Weeping Spirit he meditated away. So he's sort of on this loop of like play Spirit, bring book back with Druid. Then next round he's going to be able to replay the Spirit.
I'm back over to
So I think one of my plays here could have been to play the Skull, draw a card,
you. Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to go ahead and Hunter's Mark the Druid, which is fine. Main action will be Frostbite for 2. Okay, so we're going to ping the Druid for 2 with the Frostbite. That puts it next turn able to be shot with the Nature Die. The Druid's not a really threatening unit to me, but it's a big enough blocker that we want to stay on plan of removing our opponent's units. So that's what this deck does. So he goes in and plays the Weeping Spirit again,
I should be putting this
and
back. And then that's back over to you.
so again, I know I'm going to get raced on. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now I don't have enough.
Double, right?
Yeah. I don't have enough dice to recur. Yeah. I don't have a choice here. Yeah. So yeah, I do play the monk here. Probably a mistake to play the monk. In retrospect, if my opponent kneels, but there is one advantage of the monk being out. I have ways to deal damage to my monk to get an unexhausted monk spirit.
So main action.
Maybe it's not terrible, but
to...
I think I'm trying to hold the dice necessary to play the vampire.
Spirits again.
Because if you remember right, the vampire is in my bin, and so I just want to get the most aggressive unit on the board that I can. And by playing the bear last turn, I end up with a bear and a monk for 3 attack power on board. Whereas if I play the monk and then
side action, I'm going to
play the monk and then ceremonial, I get the vampire back.
Go ahead and meditate it away.
All right, so I think we're going to get another druid at some point, since he's being aggressive about meditating the spirits away. Still threatening Golden Veil, also threatening Kneel. So I go ahead and attack with the monk because I want to get my damage in. If I give him another unit on the board. Ceremonial power. Get back Master Vampire. Yep.
Okay.
So again, one of the things that I'm most concerned about here is, will my opponent kneel and then play Mirror Spirit? But right now he's not set up with dice in the pool any longer to do that combo. So if he kneels me, it's just to shut down the vampire now. Obviously that's not great, but it's also not the end of the world if my vampire takes an exhaustion token after I play it. Because we're going to flip around, go top around. Most likely he's going to top around kneel me. That's what's going to happen. So I feel like I can get 3 damage in right here. He top around kneels me, then I still have a Frostback Bear to play. and potentially still a Salamander Monk if I don't get another ally, which would be really unlikely in my draw, but still possible. Game's close right now. Nobody's really turned a corner. He's still trying to set up that control, and if he can get it set up, it could be difficult. It could be difficult to get around it, and it would be possible to get rid of spirits, providing they don't get kneeled. Okay, so we're just waiting on his decision point. Ashes is really interesting because there's a lot of decision points that go in. I mean, 3 dice that are showing here, all 3 of those dice have various different playouts, right? Like he could just like light swordsman me right now and take out my Scald. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but he's going to encore here.
Encore.
That's going to get his spirit book back, and he's going to draw it.
Grab Weeping Spirit back.
And I do think this is a potential misplay, and I actually tell him after the game because um, he actually has the dice to play the druid, and if he has the dice to play the druid, he could play the druid and get the book back, and he wouldn't be able to cast the spirit, but he'd still have a druid on board, so it would sort of be a reasonable defender against the vampire. So I think that's a potential misplay. I think he was just really on plan to try to get as many spirits out, and obviously getting 3 spirits out round one. If you don't have a fast plan for allies or summons, then you're going to be in trouble. And so in this case, he's going to play the spirit, fill my board, and again, it's going to turn into a situation where, with that in mind, his top of round is going to have to be summon Weeping Spirit if he wants to fill my board. If he kneels me instead to fill to like shut the board down, then I get to play another unit. If he Weeping Spirits me, then I don't get to play another unit into the board, but he risks that I can just attack with all my units into an open board, and then he's going to take 6 damage here and go to 5.
I'm also.
So I think he's not in a great position just because I was able to establish enough pressure on the board that he's got a kneel here. I mean, I think it's still the best play, but it's hard to say. I mean, maybe it's better to go the long game and take your licks and then kneel the board and then play your Miss Spirit and go this round. Because if you can Miss Spirit and your Miss Spirit's worth 7, you attack for 7, somehow untap the Miss Spirit. There's lots of ways to do that. Attack for another 7, 14. He's got me within 1. I mean, he's got the nature die. Like, he probably, nature die won't finish it. So, again, not really sure, but I'm sitting on an ice trap. So, if he was to show Miss Spirit, I would just hold the ice trap. I mean, that's just a single die removal of the spirit. And we go to the top of the round and probably win at that point. But I'm also holding Molten Gold, and I'm holding another Frostbite. So if he doesn't kneel me here, I probably win just this round anyways. So he's got the dice showing to kneel, and so he just kneels it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I didn't clear my token off the Herald, so that's why I got confused. The Herald,
I was trying to think. What did I do? Did something. Oh, you're at your.
But the Herald is up still.
And then let's see.
I can do 7 this round. And again, if I really wanted to get cheeky about it, I could Frostbite the Monk.
And I'll go ahead and do the means side.
Okay. You gonna double exhauster?
Yeah, this time I can.
Okay. I think probably should have double exhausted her last round. Would have been a lot harder for me to remove the druid, especially with no golden veils. But
And over to you.
yeah, so we're gonna put a bear out. This is gonna force my opponent to respond to the bear in some way, right? Like he's just gonna have to. Side action will be to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a lot of playable cards in hand right now. So I'm gonna meditate twice. I'm not sure. I was considering whether I should meditate deeper. But I'm going to drop one Anchornaut off there again because I know my opponent's sort of on a owl strategy as a potential like get out of jail card for this deck. If he can't mirror sphere me down, I don't want to feed too much into that. But I'm also sitting pretty aggressive, like where I can be pretty aggressive right now because I'm sitting on a board where we just go top of next round and I can win. So if my opponent removes no units, I have 8 damage in combat units on board, 9 with the single frostbite, soon to be 10 with the other frostbite, and with the molten gold, I've got 12. So
Okay, I'll summon.
I may not be able to finish it this round, but I have the combat math if nothing changes in a board state or he doesn't do things that would eliminate units from my board. And, again, he goes ahead and plays an owl here, and I ice trap. The reason I do that is because I'm now sitting on 2 nature dice and 2 frostbites, so I'm able to again potentially deal with a mirror spirit um, just that way. So I attack with the bear. This way, I sort of force if the mirror spirit happens, I'm going to force the mirror spirit to come down into a game state that I can manage it, which means I can still hold the molten gold if I want, and I can frostbite the mirror spirit down plus a side action of.
Yeah, they're all exhausted.
So then I can kill the mirror spirit on my next turn after summon, and get the consumed soul off, which will unexhaust my herald. And I think those are all things that are positives if my opponent tries to do something because he's still got a grip of dice and a grip of cards.
Let's see. I'm going to.
He's counting my exhausted units, which tells me that the mirror spirit's a real thing.
Um,
At least I think it's a real thing. So that's an exhortation. Again, I think what he's trying to do there is if he can get a couple of big units on the board that can share attack values, even if he's got like O2 Owl on the board and a Mirror Spirit, he's got they share 1-0 to the Mirror Spirit. The 7 goes back over to the other Mirror Spirit, so the Owl becomes a 7-2. Mirror Spirit's a 7-2. He attacks for 14, but he's gonna change Psyche.
Change Psyche.
And he's gonna put an exhaustion token on a unit. So I think he wants to keep my vampire down, which is probably smart, assuming that he can drag the game out another round.
I'll put it on your vampire.
So I think if that was his best play out of hand. I don't know what other cards my opponent had in hand, but if that's his best play out of hand, then
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm not ready to use Molten Gold yet because my opponent still could play Mirror Spirit, and I want to be able to deal with it.
Side action to draw a card.
Okay, so he hasn't gotten it yet. Right, the fact that he's drawing cards kind of leads me to believe that he doesn't have the Mirror Spirit. That's what I'm thinking now. So if that's true, which is not guaranteed, but if that's true, then I feel like I'm in a position where I can go ahead and
This is not going how it's
well, I do the Molten Gold. The spirits were coming down. You're filling my battlefield with them. I was like, I think I'm.
No, it's not that. I just got no. You don't have cards I can play.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So we're gonna see what he's got for me.
Yeah, I guess I have to pass main.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and main action Frostbite. So again, I'm
Mhm.
still I'm still not I'm still not wanting to commit all in to a plan that would expose me and expose the Molten Gold yet. So I still want my opponent to be fearful of the nature power die and its ability to ping for one on top of having a single frostbite available. If I open the window with the last frostbite, which he's sort of forcing it on my next action, I have to either use the last frostbite or I have to start using up some of my dice for the last card in hand. But I did buy me a little time by sympathy by meditating into the sympathy die for drawing. I can draw another card, and that gives me the potential to play something as a further delay. And he meditates away an encore for the ceremonial. I'm gonna main action frostbite you. So I go ahead and main the frostbite here. Side action, I draw a card.
Mhm.
And sort of what I'm thinking is, if my opponent plays Mirror Spirit at this point, um, I'm in a position now where I can just be aggressive on my next turn on the top of round 3 and probably still win the game because I'll have my opponent. He's passing main, so that tells me he's not sitting great. So I'm going to go ahead and double spin my nature and hit for 3, taking him to 4. And don't have a single ceremonial like a fire archer or anything like that. I can't do any of those things. Okay. I'll pass main as well.
Yeah. And then you get first.
Yep. Yep, I don't get attacked with my vampire. He did a nice job of controlling that, but I do have the 4 attack on board. I actually have 5 attack on board, so yeah. All right, so that wraps up my week 2 makeup match with Chaos Monkey. Thanks for the game, man. I super appreciate it. I did ask him after the match whether or not he did have the Mist Spirit or the Mirror Spirit, and he did show it to me. He didn't have it in hand. He was still sort of digging for it. I think this deck needs to set up that and threaten that book early in order to be really strong. And I think that the deck was really interesting outside of that. I like the Weeping Spirits with the Mirror Spirit because the Mirror Spirit cares about exhaustion. So when you unexhaust all that stuff or you exhaust all that stuff with Neil, you can make a very big Mirror Spirit that your opponent may not potentially be able to refill their board. And if they can't refill their board because of the Weeping Spirits and they're exhausted, now you're sort of winning a weird like attrition game where you're discarding cards to get rid of Weeping Spirits. And so if you discard a card to get rid of a Weeping Spirit and you've got Weeping Spirit books on board, like you can just turn around and re-Weeping Spirit them again. And so you can kind of keep their board state clogged while setting up a Mirror Spirit. And then even if the Mirror Spirit ends up like on a 4 battlefield unit or 4 battlefield PB as a 4/2, with the Exhortation and 2 Mirror Spirits that way, you've got 2 8 attacks, and that finishes a lot of Phoenixborn. So it's kind of doing similar things to the Hydra, but as the Hydra, obviously, it's just a lot more tricky to set up. So, super great game. It was tons of fun playing with him, and I look forward to playing a lot more of the AIL tournament. Thanks so much for watching the Shuffle Bus. We'll be back soon with more vids.